Hello there. We are underway in celebrating our first year anniversary. And if you don't already know about it, I'm hosting a raffle and giving away more than $2,000 worth in cash and prizes. So if you or a friend have access to an Apple product, you can enter to win. For the complete details, go to sayyesToYourSoulPodcast.com. All right, here we go with another soulful episode.
So when we're drawing more from our body than our body has to offer, that's what we do to each other. That's when we're like, come on, I need you to be here faster. I need you to do more. And then are from the planet, let's take more from you. So when we can come back to a somatic understanding of natural boundaries and limitations of ourselves, we have that capacity to give that to everything else in our lives.
Hi there. My name is Tessa Lynne Alburn. Welcome to Say Yes to Your Soul. This is where we're going to talk about how you can get past your spiritual plateaus, raise your feminine energy, and express your true self with sparkle. Hello there. I'm so happy to have this wonderful young lady, brilliant, sparkly. I would say she probably embodies the essence of a sparkly soul. And she is a somatic well-being and intimacy coach and the creator of Embodied Freedom Formula for Transformation and Healing. Her name is Erin LoPorto. And after Erin's own recovery, she studied with experts in yoga and somatic therapy, energy healing work, body work, meditation, and trauma stuff. So she's been coaching since 2011 with a focus on trauma and eating disorders and relationships. And we had just this great conversation about a month ago at an event. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just so happy she's going to be here. She brings a playful, intuitive, and compassionate spirit as she speaks on topics of self-love, self-care, and the importance of embodiment. And I really want to welcome her here today. Welcome to Say Yes to Your Soul, Erin.
Thank you so much, Tessa. And I love being described as a young woman.
Well, to me, you are. And, I think it's like your energy is just
Yeah.
shining, right? And radiant. And you have a beautiful smile. So hint, hint, everybody out there, if you're wanting to.
I totally every time somebody says that, I'm like, I am doing the good work.
There you are. Yes, indeed. So, Erin, I would love just, give a little framing to what a somatic well-being and intimacy coach is, and then we'll get into a little bit more here. I've got a track that we'll follow. So,
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so a somatic coach is somebody who takes you into actually feeling and experiencing your body. Most of the time, we're trying to get out of our bodies or away or looking for resolution or looking to make the feelings that we're having a certain way that we're comfortable with. So somatic understanding is really just being with our whole beingness as it is. And from that work, the intimacy is, I really feel like the most intimate relationship that we'll ever have is the one that we have with our body. And that
mm,
ripples out into our relationship with others and even into our relationship with the planet. So when we're drawing more from our body than our body has to offer, that's what we do to each other. That's when we're like, come on, I need you to be here faster. I need you to do more. And then are from the planet, let's take more from you. So when we can come back to a somatic understanding of natural boundaries and limitations of ourselves, we have that capacity to give that to everything else in our lives. And that's why I
mm.
think it's so important.
That's really beautiful, and it is really important. I'm in agreement with you. And so, how did you get inspired to get on this into this world of somatic well-being?
Yeah, well, I experienced some childhood trauma that led me to develop an eating disorder that I wrestled with for 10 years. And it was like a full-on wrestle with my body. We were at war every day, not just what it looked like or what it felt like, but that it even existed. Like I just wanted out of it. So it was really some deep soul searching that I started like going into it instead. And it started when I showed up at a therapist's office early one day and I watched her chain smoke cigarettes before our appointment. I know some people just stare at me dead face, and some people get the like, how could you be doing this when, when you're supposed to be helping me get over my addiction? So I really left that appointment with like this fundamental, there are no heroes. And if I'm going to heal myself, I'm going to have to figure it out myself. And it that was the pivotal moment that I turned inside and I started doing my own work and understanding through doing the work that like the work is it's not just supposed to be there, but our pain is supposed to be there. The hardness of this life, it's all supposed to be there. And what I found is on the inside of every piece of pain, every piece of struggle was incredible wisdom that I never would have accessed without going there, and personal strengths, personal gifts, personal, you know, just lightness that doesn't exist in the things that people can give us easy, in the easy kind of pain management, or the things that are just treating the symptoms rather than really getting to that root of the cause. So that was what inspired me. I started I put myself in a retreat pretty much for 10 weeks, and
Well,
I
wait
didn't
a
really talk.
second. So, like,
What?
how
Yes.
did you go about that?
Yeah. So I literally, like, when I left the therapist's office, the first place, like, I detoured, I was gonna drive home. I like did a U-turn to go to the library. I was like, I need reference materials. And I read everything on eating disorders, on recovery, on personal growth that I could get my hands on. And I just kind of made a plan that I stuck to. And it was like that I had to walk every day, and that
Oh,
usually what would happen was I journaled every day. And I would journal a lot of the things that would come up as I was moving my body during the walk. And it was really interesting because I had been in like therapy for several years at that point. And I would be walking and I would be like, why don't therapists walk with you? This is so much more productive. I'm feeling so much more. I'm making so many more connections when I'm stimulating right and left hemispheres of my brain, when I'm
yes.
stimulating my whole body and moving. So I started to feel the power of the body and actually helping to access some of the wisdom that usually we just sit on and keep still and try to talk through, but we need to move it out. So that was like big deal number one.
Well, yeah, and and to me, it almost sounds like you were really being guided that day. Like, no, you're here with an addiction, and you show up when the therapist has an addiction, and it was just like, bam! I mean, you were driven. Literally, you took the detour to the library. You were making a
Yeah.
plan. It just suddenly all this information came in. So I want to give some cheers to your spiritual team who was clearly in action and supporting you. But I also love like you just sound like you were so determined. Like I have to get over this. Like what was it cost for you back then?
I think that I was holding the cost of like, if I do not figure this out, I might as well kill myself now. Like I should just die. Like it was like, I'm either going to accidentally kill myself engaging in these behaviors, or I'm going to get so caught up that, I'm out, or like, but I know that I got to a place that it really felt like I either do this and figure it out, or life is not worth it. I might as well die. Those were the two things that I was at that moment. And I really leaned into life, like 100%. I think before that, like death floated around, but I didn't really care that the idea of death was floating around.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like the first moment that I was like, it is not my job to die. It is not my job to let that. It was like I need to figure this out. And just every ounce of energy came with so much clarity. And I just pulled all the energy back towards myself. And I want to name that I'm one of those people that are fairly empathic, definitely heart centered, definitely care about other people in my life. And I think people like me, we constantly have to check our boundaries and be like, how much am I giving away? And how much am I actually holding to take care of myself? And there was a big shift in like, I for the first time really gave myself permission to say no. And I was like, nope, taking care of myself right now. Nope, life or death matter. I need to like focus here, and that allowed
Brilliant.
me to actually receive some of the love that I was so used to giving, but I was always feeling empty inside.
So it sounds like you were really courageous. Like you just didn't even, it didn't matter at that point. You just knew the stakes were really high. You were like, I've got to figure this out because the alternative is death, either quickly or slowly. That's not
Mhm.
okay with me. And so you didn't go to some class and try to learn how to set a boundary. You're just like, no, this is what I need. And was there any fallout from that or no?
I remember one time I lived with, or I hung out with a lot of people who would be like, so, I don't know what your rating is, but the B word that sometimes girls call each other. And all
Ah,
of a sudden that was like not okay with me. And I remember being like, I'm not going to be spoken like that anymore.
ah,
Really deeply feeling cared for because one of my friends was just like, wait. And I just hung up the phone and went for my walk for the day. And then she drove up in the car and she was like, I am really sorry. I love you. I think she had called like, just it wasn't just that word, but it was like all the C word and the S word, but as like just the means of speaking to each other, not as an insult. So she drove up and she was like, I'm so sorry. I love you so much. I didn't mean anything. And it was just really interesting because I realized how much I was tolerating from the world around me. And I didn't really know what it was like to have a boundary and have people actually take care of that boundary, willing. I did not know that people were willing to drive to me to make sure that I was okay, because I was usually the one taking care of and like putting on the face that everything was good and I was okay.
yeah. It sounds like that was really stirring up some stuff for other people because their support link, you, wasn't available
Mhm.
to them.
That's true too.
Well, I love that you notice like people will drive for me. Oh, I'm actually wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So was that relationship, did that heal and everything like repaired and went
Yeah.
forward?
Yeah. I think there were some relationships that kind of fell out and you know, I also ended up leaving that area after college, so there was like a distance between them, but there was never any animosity towards anybody in my life, and I would be happy to hear from anybody from back in the day,
Hmm.
um, anytime. But yeah, so that was a big piece of it, and there was also the awareness that I wasn't aware of myself or what I was doing or why I was doing it. So everything in me was like so impulsive at that time. And one of the things that I came up was just like a mantra that was like slow down. I remember I had it written on my wrist, just slow down. And I would say that to myself a million times a day. And I started to realize that something would happen and I would find myself in a behavior real fast. And when I slowed down, I realized that what was actually happening was something would happen. I would have a thought about that would lead to another thought, that would lead to another thought, and then I would get to the behavior. But when I slowed down, I found that each one of those thoughts was a place to get off of that train, was like a choice. And
Yes.
I didn't actually have access to that because I was in such a kind of traumatized, PTSD reactive state for so much of my life that I couldn't tolerate, It's so funny. I'm a yoga teacher. I teach meditation, but when I started back then, I could not lay down and do shavasana, the
Oh
relaxation
my
at the end.
goodness. That's
I could not sit and do a meditation. Walking was my meditation. Like I needed to be moving. And that was a time that I would regularly just have panic attacks, like
mm,
randomly.
mm.
And usually my panic attacks would not call a bunch of attention. They would just be something internal, and I would usually get quiet or something because I didn't ever want to draw more attention to myself in that space.
So you'd like just wait them out or something?
Yeah, sometimes I would say, "Can you do something?" And I would just like put somebody else on task for a second so that I could like disappear. But it was just a regular kind of thing that my nervous system was so, 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 so hijacked. And I say all of this because, like, I know how to calm my nervous system down now. I know how to sit. I've sat for 10 days in silence at this point in my life. Like I know how to be present now to each thought, to each feeling, to make space even in between the thoughts. And I know that I came from such an extreme opposite where I would have said a million times to anybody, I can't do that. And to just know that with intention, and it doesn't have to be perfect when you start practicing, but just the intention and the clarity of where you want to go and to keep doing little bit at a time, you can do everything that you think that you can't do. I don't think we have limits on human potential.
Isn't that amazing? Yes, and thankfully so. But we do, I think you're right. We do have to have the intention. Otherwise, we just spin around in the same little orbit.
Absolutely. And I talk about all that all the time. Like a lot of times, in therapy, we're taught to like go in and go into, what's your memory, what's your story, what's your pain. And sometimes there's not always the intentional aspect of that when we do therapeutic work. And I always like to bring intention in is like, where do we want to go? Because when we have intention and we're clear about where we want to go, we'll find plenty of darkness that's in the way of us getting to that
Hmm.
intention, but only the stuff that's relevant to that. Because I feel like we can otherwise dig around the swamps of sadness forever and uncover every stone, but the direction we want to go isn't down that way. It's like through or this way. So to really be, as I do healing work, I do one little piece at a time that is directly in the way of where we want to go and what we want to open our lives to.
I love that. Okay, I want to know from you. I would like to know from you, Erin, when you were in that 10-week
Yeah.
inner world experience, like at what point did you realize like you had crossed over into something different?
So it was really funny. I will tell you two parts of this. I think the first part was just realizing how I would get stuck in these moods that I did not know how to get out of, but I knew the places that would get me out of them. And it's so funny. There were two places that I would regularly go to. One, I was living in Savannah, Georgia at the time. So I would drive down to Tybee Island and get to the ocean, which makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
The ocean's very big, it can hold everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the other was Walmart.
That's surprising.
Was something about like I could, for the most part, afford something in Walmart at any given time. And there was just something about being able to provide something. I don't even know what it was, but it was like I was regularly, Walmart was closest also. So I'd regularly take myself to Walmart or the beach to kind of just shift my energy. And that was an awareness. But then what started happening was I would be doing something random, like walking across the street, and all of a sudden this happiness would like bubble up within me.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And I would be like, I'm so happy. I don't even know what this is coming from. And it was something so different than any other happiness that I'd had before, which was like based on the entertainment that was around me or based on the accomplishment that I had done. But this was just like the happiness of being rather than doing. And it blew every other happiness that I had experienced out of the water.
I love that. That sounds really beautiful. A natural, organic happiness, and it was just
Yeah.
coming from within you.
I just want everybody to have that. That's like my biggest wish is just like to just have that happiness that comes from deeply loving, respecting, and caring for yourself. Because when we land there, we have everything that we could possibly need.
Yes, may that be so. So, Erin, I know, like when we were talking, you were talking about the body in some really specific ways. And so a big component of this and why you are in doing somatic work is the body and that relationship. Can you help our listeners understand a little bit about how the body could support them?
One of the things that kind of like started with me when I first started thinking about building a relationship with my body, which I don't think we really think about, I have a relationship with my body. We usually think my body is supposed to perform for me. Why is it not performing? It should be looking this way. It should be feeling this way. Gosh, I don't want to have to go to the bathroom right now. Let me sit another, let me ignore this signal and let me ignore my sleep signals and let me ignore this rather than understanding that the body is constantly communicating what is true for us. And I really like that word truth when it comes to the body because our mind can tell us all sorts of different stories. It can tell us what we can do, what we can't do. It can tell us that so and so likes us or doesn't like us. It can come up with things from the past, the future, and imaginary worlds. And we often just automatically believe what our mind is telling us. Whereas when we get into the body is giving direct feedback about what is happening right now. The body grounds us to this present moment, and the body gives us information about what either is true and happening now, or the body tells us what is locked inside of it and what needs attention.
Yeah, so that would be like the case of, for example, a trauma that's trapped in the body or unprocessed feelings that have turned into physiological states like anxiety.
Definitely, definitely. And what I like too about when I started working with the body, it's so interesting because in therapy and psychology, we're all pretty familiar with the term trigger. I'm triggered
Hmm.
by this, I'm triggered by that. And when you start working with the body, then you're kind of learning that the triggers are outside of you. It's all very neutral out there. Otherwise, we would all react the same exact way to the same exact things, but we don't. We all have individual things. So the triggers are very neutral, and where the triggers actually live are inside you. And it's always a sensation that is coming up that actually tells us how we're feeling, our emotions. If you're not connected to your emotions, or you're not an emotional person, or you're an overly emotional person, all of the things around emotions are about feeling the sensations in our body. That's how we interpret emotions. So to get clarity and gain more capacity for emotions, it's actually capacity for feeling what is in our bodies. But being able to hold and comfort and be with those triggers so that we don't have to react to them, but understanding the worst thing that can happen to us is a sensation. It was really interesting because our poor little nervous systems, especially when we've been hurt before, it can't really deduce the difference between, oh, that sensation is something actually physically happening to me and it's dangerous. I could lose my life. Or some of the sensations, like it felt like somebody were stabbing me in the chest, or, like my guts were ringing, like there's these words that we use to describe very visceral sensations of like, that sounds dangerous, right? Like, can you say, like, I was
Yes.
stabbed in the heart? And oftentimes our nervous system responds to emotions like they're physical dangers.
Yes, because it's not like it actually is experiencing as though it's actually happening.
Right. Yeah. And it's just like, whoa, this sounds dangerous. Let's get out of here. So to understand that if we just start relating to our bodies, letting our bodies know in those situations, it's okay. You can calm down. It's just a sensation. And I really, in that, I'll usually refer to Pema Chodron's the first one I heard say, you are the sky, everything else is the weather. So when we can start
Mm,
to hold ourselves as the sky and let all of these sensations just be the storm that's moving within the sky, and that we can keep that calmness and keep that bigger perspective, then we start to really be able to transform our own triggers without needing to change a thing in our environment, which is really powerful.
that's very powerful. Okay, I want you to just repeat that.
When we can learn to hold our own triggers, the ones that live in our body as sensations, then we can find peace, we can find change, we can transform our lives without needing to change a single thing in our environment.
Beautifully said. I love that. I'm just like resonating with all kinds of tingles right now. I'm so excited that you brought this to share today. So the power of the body is really the power of freedom.
It really is. And I always am like, it's not real until it's in your body, which is why, my work is called Embodied Freedom, because it's like, how do we really get to that place where we are actually living from a free place, where we are fully in choice, where we are fully conscious, and the only place to do that is landing in our bodies.
Beautiful. Erin, I would love to keep talking today, but this is our time for our episode.
Yeah.
And I'm just super excited about what you've brought here and getting to know you even more. I'm glad we had that other meeting. We got to be together a second time. That's fantastic. So I want to make sure that my listeners have a way to reach out to you. I know you have a free gift for them, so why don't you go ahead and share that with them now?
Yeah. My website is my name, erinloporto.com. And there is a free gift at erinloporto.com/, self-care-journal. So it's a self-care journal. It's about 70 something pages. There's a bunch that's all content for you and what are the best self-care things to put in. And it's really a self-awareness journal of what works for you, what doesn't. So it's a place to experiment, to try on, to self-discover. And then there's the second part of it is all the places to write and take notes and to do the different practices and kind of study yourself and what really gives you the most back. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I offer you all.
I think that's a wonderful gift. I know a lot of my listeners love to journal. They're not new to self-growth, but I think this journal could really give a kind of a new, interesting structure to things and support a lot of people on their journey. So I encourage you all to go there. Erin, Erin, LoPorto, LoPorto.com/self-care-journal. And we will, of course, have that in the show notes. Erin, before we go, I'd love for you to, if you have one other thing, I know you do. When we were talking earlier, we were talking about this body as your friend piece, and I'd love to know if you want to just share a little bit more around that, or maybe a way people could get started with helping the body to be their friend.
Yeah, to just think of it as a friend and to think about your body as like what is the health of my relationship with my body? Not as what is my body's health, but what is the health of the relationship I have with my body? Because if you were to treat probably anybody in your life the way you treat your body, most of us, that person would not hang around. That person would not open up to us. That person would not trust us and reveal all of themselves to you. So I invite you to really treat your body, talk to your body like it's a friend. Sometimes our body's very young or has a very young part present. So sometimes we have to talk to it like it's a child. But if we hold ourselves with the kindness that we would tend to hold any friend, then that is when the body reveals its love and its wisdom and its light to you. So to just be a good friend in that direction and do your part to listen, to understand, and to make adjustments for this different kind of consciousness than our mind is.
Hmm.
Speaks a different language.
It certainly does, and thank goodness for that. Thank you so much for that. So, the holding with kindness and creating trust, I think that's a wonderful comparison that you just made that will help people remember that, right? Treating their body, the health of the relationship you have with your body,
Yeah.
at least as good as the best relationships you have with people.
Yeah. And it'll make all your relationships better too, I promise.
Yes, well, thank you so much for being here on Say Yes to Your Soul today, Erin.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this incredible work that you bring into this world and things for people to reflect on that up level us all. I do believe one person's effort affects us all. So thank you for this work.
You're very welcome. All right, it's time to go for today. I look forward to being with you again next week as we dive into something else juicy, meaningful, and deep stuff. Lots of love and light. Bye bye for now. All right. Thank you for joining us for this week's delicious episode. Before you jump off, I wanted to remind you to get entered in the raffle this month because I'm giving away more than $2,000 worth of prizes in both private sessions and actual cash. What are those prizes, you ask? Well, one of them is a private 75-minute soul light healing session with me. And that can be healing on various levels. It might be releasing trauma or tuning up your body or your emotions or clearing things like past lives and karma that's been, energetic debris holding you back. This session can be very helpful and sometimes have dramatic results in relationships, money, and in your health. And we're going to do that together on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. The second prize is a 60-minute coaching session with me, and that's also going to be on Zoom. So if you want support or clarity for your goals, like help with getting started with a project or just creating an action plan, that is going to be an amazing session. You'll be surprised at how much you come away with. The third prize is a personalized meditation that I will design especially for you. And of course, it's going to be yours to keep. So it's going to be fully personalized in terms of the content, and I will be speaking just to you so that you will be able to resonate with it and receive the maximum benefits that you want to create. Okay, now for the fun stuff, the cash. I have several cash prizes in various amounts. I've got several $50 prizes, $75 prizes, and $100 prizes. So you can see there are many opportunities to win here, and I just want to encourage you to be sure to play because you do need to play to win. All monetary prizes will be delivered through PayPal or Wise. And if you have a different currency, it'll be automatically converted for you. So as long as you have access to an Apple device, you can play. And all the instructions are available on our website at sayyes2yoursoulpodcast.com. That's sayyes2yoursoulpodcast.com. And if you need any support in completing your raffle entry, my team is ready to help you with that. You'll find their email on our webpage as well. So that's it. All the best to you, and may you say yes to your soul.